I'm clapping for you all because being here is a step in the right direction. I truly believe. I'm actually very pleased to be here because the meaning of being here is touching, as you all came for the same readings, to touch each other in a way that you can't say normally. It's either email or some kind of mail we have these days, which is not a bad thing, but at least in this forum you get a chance to one-on-one get into each other and share some ideas. I actually have a couple of songs I've written for the moment. I won't get into it right now, but let's say that kind of like exemplifies the moment in itself. And me being religiously nasty, you can expect it to be something that you'll smile about, I'm sure.
Well, those words came from a man who doesn't need all too much introduction. He's been behind a couple, I think it's fair to say that, and a good reason to take off the hat as well. One of the best albums, you know, albums are those long records that you can listen to for a long time and not just a 3-minute hit that ever have been recorded, I guess. And yeah, I think it's a very good thing to give him an official welcome, Mr. Leon Ware.
Thank you very much. You could add to that by saying it's one of the most prolific albums as far as babies are concerned.
Well, I mean, as we discussed yesterday in the radio, it must feel kind of weird that wherever you go, you meet people that had you in their bedroom already.
Oh, not weird. Listen, it is a total pleasure. I'm an extremely freaky individual. Just think of it like this. I look at the world as my lover, and we've been making love for a long time. And we still find new and interesting ways to do the same thing. Huh? Huh? I love it.
Well, on that note, probably we start off with the easier topics. What actually is this thing, love?
Love, without a question, is what we all have instinctively. But unfortunately, it gets drastically fucked up when we get to, excuse me, I didn't use the right word, did I? But it does get a little bit disturbed when you get past, say, 3 years old. Unfortunately, because you learn some senses that divert you from really understanding who you are, what your purpose is here. I think what we all share 100% is the same reason why I consider myself a sensual minister. Not to be funny, but to remind everyone that I come in contact with, cherish where we come from. I have fun with it because the moment I say I'm a sensual minister, I get this chuckle. However, I'm addressing just simply where we come from. And I'm very proud to be one of the voices that makes all those, as many, I'm coming up with some innuendos I haven't even used yet. So that if this, in my time, will allure, excite, invite anyone and everyone that listens to it to a place where they make love, I'm an excessively happy man.
But isn't there a little bit more to love than just making love?
Love is making love and being in love. That's the two combinations.
How do you know when you're in love?
Well, you shouldn't have to ask. You shouldn't have to ask. This is spirit. The most honest thing about where I'm at in my pursuit, I've not made decisions that were business decisions, ever. I've always been very idealistic. And in fact, really cruelly approached by different friends and family by some of the decisions I've made. But at 65, going on 66, and I had my first hit 1964, before a lot of you are alive. And every one of my moves, everything that I've ever done has been from here. So I don't even question about, maybe I am questioned, but I don't question my premise because it's very simple. As I say, when I started I made my first record I recorded my first record in 1955. I made my professional first record 1960. And it hasn't stopped. I feel like what I look at now is the group of people, or this mindset that you are in, young people that you have such a wonderful time in front of you, because not only with the facilities that we have, whereas from Pro Tools to the different sequences and stuff, you have that to work with. You got the internet. There's a lot of things that plus. The only thing that's different, might be a deficit, is that in my time there was a lot of camaraderie, which is what I'm hoping will happen here with all of you. At the best, when you leave here, you will feel a seed. As I told Torsten when I came in, I got a couple of ideas for that, as I say, exemplify some of the meaning here. And as it is, as I say, sensually being nasty and religiously nasty, one of the titles is I Want to Grow a Seed in You. And I can see it put on a t-shirt and the smiles that you'll get as you pass someone. However, and the meaning, the same meaning as, interestingly enough, I'm glad I thought of this. When I wrote the song, Inside My Love for Minnie Riperton, she asked me, she says, do you have anything that we could say that kind of straddles the fence? I said, to go no further, I got an idea. Interestingly enough, when the song was released and headed up the charts, I heard a DJ's description of the song, and I stopped the car, I pulled it aside, and I actually called him something that I won't use in this room. But it was really disappointing that I actually, after I cussed him, then I smiled, because it was our 100% feeling that when we finished the song, the sentiment of the song is, won't you come inside me? Will you come inside me? Will you take a ride inside my love? However, listening to it, most people took it as what it was. Won't you come inside me? Will you take a, meaning the ejaculation or the orgasm that we do when we get to have that moment. However, what I meant, it came from me being a little boy in church, hearing the preacher say, won't you come inside the Lord? And I took that with me all my life. And in fact, that particular phrase, as a kid, I say to people, was so compelling that when I thought that that was coming up at the end of the sermon, I left the room. I didn't want to hear it because it made you want to come. However, the meaning, being let's say an entendre, which I do that constantly, I love that. Having two meanings in one, or several meanings, letting the individual that listening adapt to that meaning that means something to them, which is a very strong, I think it's one of the strongest things you can do as a writer, is to give your listener, or the people that are working with you, the option to take their particular view of what you're saying in your message.
Were you ever afraid of saying something?
I'm instinctively an instigator. As a little boy, I used to love, in fact, I'll give you a scenario. I was walking behind my sister and about 3 of her friends at 7 years old. My sister turned around and noticed that every time that they were bending over, I was taking an extra look. She turned and said, "You're a nasty little boy." I said to myself, I said, "Is that what I am?" I think, I like that. So I've been nasty ever since. Religiously. I mean, it's like, it's nothing, but see, and I'm really glad that I came to a point a couple of years ago that validated my nastiness. Believe it or not, it's as I say to you, it's because I realize that the innuendos that Marvin, me, Berry, all the singers that you've heard in your lifetime, that alluded to the bedroom, they alluded to an orgasm, they alluded to anything sensual, we're only addressing where we come from. It's a beautiful place. It's something that, unfortunately, in our time being here, we've learned some unfortunate habits for us. What we are, how we treat things, how to look at things, you know, feeling uncomfortable about something that is as natural as you take the next breath. And some of us, like myself, are rebels. I refuse to feel bad about something that I feel good about, something that I don't have to work at, something that I wake up in the morning and it's like a good sip of coffee, you know, or a good breath of air, or something that you know you don't want, you need. It's a part of you. And I would say, for sure, I look forward to every next breath I have, because each day I realize that I haven't said enough. I have not said everything that's, as I said earlier, it's like making love, knowing that there are so many possibilities.
But does it ever get hard, I mean, to gyrate always around nastiness?
Well, when you said, does it ever get hard? I could stop right there. However, the truth is, the sincere truth is, as I'm blessed with a natural sense of, if you want, it's not just, I'm a romanticist. Listen to my music. I mean, I came up with, me and Marvin, when we were doing the I Want You album, we laughed a lot. In fact, when he did this song, I'm gonna give you some head, baby. Lots of people in here, if you listen to the record, don't even realize that's what's being said. But if you listen to it closely, the whole chorus is, I'm gonna give you some head, baby. That's what I do, cause me and the engineer was standing in the studio when he did it. Of course, there was a sign on the studio board that when you came in, the first thing you seen was head. Not that we were alluding to anything, but it was like very free. We didn't think twice about it. And I can say to you, hands down, all of you in here, out of all of the times in my life, and even Marvin said, we went to this, well, at Motown, I'll come back to that when you ask me some questions about writing and my career, but at Motown, one of the things that made Motown as successful as it is and was, more like it was, but they had a quality control meeting they had every Friday. Quality control meant that as a writer at Motown, you wrote a song every day, completed.
What does that look like? I mean, is it like in the 20s in a Hollywood studio and the studio boss would walk around the premises and as
No,
long
you
as
did
he
that at
hears it-
home. You did it at home, and then they had what they call the workroom. The workroom was like 6 different rooms that had paper-thin walls. Mm-hmm. You heard Holland, Richard Holland, Stevie, Norman Whitfield, Ivy Johanna. Everybody was at their acts. As I say, the wonderful thing about it was you learned how to concentrate on what you were doing.
Is that the original building opposite
yes,
of the
that's the
opposite
original
of
building.
the hospital?
Yes, and right next door to the mortuary. We used to make jokes about that as well.
Which jokes?
However,
What's the classic Motown mortuary joke?
So you're sitting the stiffs over there, meaning the songs, you know. Any songs that didn't really make it, you know, we had a place for it. Give it a headstone right away quick. However, the quality control meant you came in with your finished songs, and you had a team of people that screened your songs. You should. I should as well. They screened your songs, and they told you whether your song was one that lived or was one that was ready for next door. And it was vicious because you were pitted against, which was Motown's, I think, its strength, is that they pitted everybody that was there against each other. So at the end of the week, you had 10 to 15 writers that were excessively talented, coming up with their best work. And as I said to people, I said to you all, you didn't think twice about that meeting. You either came in ready or you didn't come in at all. Because to sit in a meeting and I hear the first 2 or 3 songs. It's just like, as I say, as a young man, as a singer, coming up in Detroit, I also was blessed with a really good voice, and I knew it before I even knew it myself. Others knew it before I knew it. And in that process of doing talent shows throughout Detroit, which Detroit was very big with 2 things, crime and music. Fortunately, I left the crime alone at the time, in time to not really suffer, but that was a part of my life as well, unfortunately. Being a young kid in Detroit, you didn't have any options. However, the strength of the talent in Detroit at the time, and the concentration of just music itself was so rich. You had Aretha, Smokey, Hollander, I mean, just all these people that all they spent their day and night doing was music. And again, the premise wasn't about being stars. We all just basically loved what we were doing. I come from a kid that went to church every day until I was 12 years old, because my mother was a bit of a minister herself, not Jehovah's Witness, but a Baptist, and I sung in the choir, and I was a church kid, so to speak. But the interesting thing is that Detroit it birthed some, well, needless to say, some Hall of Famers, the people that you've listened to and that will be, remembered for as long as music's music. I love what I'm doing more than anything else in the world. It's nothing that I have, that's something that I have paid to do, I pay to do. I mean, literally pay to do. And the times that I have turned down opportunities that could have made me an excessively wealthy man, financially wealthy, I feel like I'm wealthier than I may have been. Some people could debate that, but my wealth isn't about mankind wealth. It's spiritual. So, again, like Marvin, like myself, very idealistic. Marvin was really rich, and he had a talent for telling you his life in a record. I'm not that expose myself. I kind of like playing with emotions, and if not playing with them, exciting. As I said, as a kid, I liked saying things that would make you didn't say that, and it would always make me feel good. This bad little boy. But again, I'm happy to have arrived at seeing that all of this time spent from 1960, I had my first gold record on the Isley Brothers in 1964, and from then to now, it's been a wonderful journey. I look forward to seeing anything that, hopefully something that you can use, something that you can take home with you and grow on. Definitely don't want to waste your time. My son, if he was here, we would leave the room. He does not like to hear me talk because I have a lot to say. I don't really talk a lot, but normally this is a very rare moment for me because I get a chance to say what I feel as opposed to sing it. And then every time, every other song, I say something, or I get a chance to give an idea of who I am. But for the most part, I'm satisfied with each performance because with each song, every song is accountable to who I am. I think in that terms, as I said to a young man who's a rapper. Rap in itself is something that I really, really respect a whole lot. Because of the fact that when you stop and think of what these guys say in the course of 1 minute, and they have to remember that. See, I'm a singer of songs. Songs is like, next to rapping, it's like a walk in the park.
But I think they're...
You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Yeah, but it's a different discipline. I mean, they're putting out a lot of words, but the question is, what are they really saying in that time?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Some of them are really saying something. Some of them
I'm not knocking that, but...
Some of them are, but that's what, I'm only pointing out the artistic excellence of anybody that... Because before I really assessed it, it was like, I guess a lot of people hear rap and you hear the gruffness and the animal thing, and To me, at first it was so demeaning, first to the ladies, second to just your intellect. Third, it was not happy music to me or happy art. However, over the years they've adapted, and you got some people like Common and different people that have some views, you know, are stressing some ideas. And I think that's going to be the development of that art, where you will have, in every art, you'll have your I call them your hackers. People that you run into, they write you 10 songs a day, you know, but none of them are really. But some of these hackers, this is the interesting thing about what we do. Make a point about your charts. Any chart that you read, do not put any emphasis on it, because it's only a reflection of the amount of money that the people that put the record out were able to put into that record for that record to see itself, unfortunately. I'm speaking of now. I'm not speaking of the time when I came into the business. Fortunately, there is a barometer that does work, but for the most part, this time set deals with not so much your excellence, but how excellent your connects are and how good you are as a business person.
But then again, Motown was not only about great talent, but also about fabricating products as well. But great great quality products, but nevertheless.
Yes. Yes. Well, Motown itself, as I say, it was like a factory. You had Berry Gordy was the genius that I would say that he is as a person was he had an innate eye for talent, and he also knew the smartest thing you can know about any talented person: leave him alone.
But that took him a bit to figure out as well.
Leave him alone. But see, he had his way of guiding you. His way of guiding was putting you next to somebody else who was maybe just as bad as you. Good guidance, right?
But probably to talk about the actual working process, the scenario that you pictured there, it almost sounds like battle rap. But it's a battle rap scenario which is all about being master seductresses and seductors. And I mean, when you got the scenario with the 5 rooms and you got Stevie and who not just riding next to each other and trying to come up in this highly competitive atmosphere with the most highly seducing kind of things. I mean, what does the day feel like? What does everyone have for breakfast?
There's so much energy there. There's so much you can come away with. But for the most part, the sensuality factor was more religious than sensual then, as I said, because I didn't really realize how much of a freak I was until I was like early 30s, you know. Unfortunately, or let's say fortunately, I understand now clearly what freak means. It's free with a K on it. So in that light, I hope that everybody in here addresses that and is proud to be as freaky as anybody would say that you are. We have some different views about that. Interestingly enough, I've listened to different records, and I've even been questioned as to whether I was the guy that did I want to do something freaky to you, and the different things that have the freaky word in it. And I stressed to another setting that same issue, because actually, if you look in the dictionary, the word freak means somebody that's a little bit impaired, you know, like the Elephant Man or something like that. It doesn't mean what we've made freak out of, which is a great word because it's in connection to sex, but some people really think it's a little bad, like they think sex is bad, but it's not.
Really?
Believe me, it's religious.
Okay.
It's like the line that said in the song that me and Marvin wrote called "Come Live With Me." A good experience freak is what you need.
Where's Christopher when you need the word? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, speaking of which, because maybe that's a good thing. Before we go into this whole thing of like, I mean, obviously being a gifted with a talent is one thing, but then realizing that someone else can probably do something out of something that you created and probably even take it to a whole different level. How do you cope with that ego-wise?
Well, ego-wise for me is, I said this once before, I don't remember ever really being intimidated. I started at 3.5 years old. I won a contest playing Caledonia, Caledonia. What makes your big head so hard? Boom! Ba-da, 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 ba-da. 3.5 years old. I won a contest, and I've been patted on the head and been complimented since then. Every time I've ever been in crowds, or in fact, from 12 to 16, I kind of avoided because I was taking it was getting to a point where I was not really comfortable with the attention, so to speak, because I'm actually very shy. You wouldn't think it, but used to be. There is something that my 30s changed me.
What was the thing in the 30s that changed you?
I could say to you easily it was drugs, but I became vocal because up until my 30s, I was always asked, was I okay, because I didn't speak a lot. I was always very, 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 you could find me very religiously in front of a piano. But you had said something that I wanted to finish.
Yeah, the initial point was that, let's say you wrote a song, like the one that became After the Dance, and you see that, you can sing yourself, and then that other boy who might be able to sing and hold a tune or two, like this Marvin guy.
I looked at Marvin as he had the voice I wanted. Period. He had the voice I wanted. I mean, like it was what was really, again, the word could be, where I would say very unusual. You could say freaky. Was 2 years before I met Marvin. Different friends of mine and different friends of his on each side were saying, "You've got to meet Leon," or "You've got to meet Marvin. You guys sound so much alike." Marvin was already Marvin Gaye with several hits, and I was Leon Ware with a few hits. When we met, the first thing he said, I looked up, the tone of his voice was so much like mine. And then when I opened my mouth, and I won't say what we were doing, but anyway, he sat down, he looked, we both laughed for about a good 5 minutes, because everything we said, I now see what they were saying, because we had very similar vocal sounds in our voice. And interestingly enough, as we work together, sentiment, I say to you very clearly, there will be a time that you will work with somebody that you will not have to ask anything. That's like telepathy. I've only had that one time happen in my life with one individual where we knew what each other were thinking. He would look at me, and in fact, the story goes about the I Want You album was an album that was actually mine, that I started out doing a demo session on T-Boy Ross, who was Diana Ross's brother, who co-wrote I Want to Be Where You Are with me. And we were doing a demo session, and I had a song called I Want You that was the filler of the demo session, because we had 3 other songs and we needed one extra song, and I put the song in as just another song. And Berry Gordy came in the studio, I guess the second or third day we were working on the demo session. He said, "I like this song." At this particular time, Marvin had sworn off of doing anything secular, commercial. He was actually very close to being, where the record Sexual Healing was, where Marvin had stopped at, because he definitely, like myself, was brought up in the church. His mindset, when I say things, as I say, all my life, because of learning that, you can say one thing and it could mean 2 things or 2 or 3 things. I've always found a way to say something nasty that could be said, you could say the same and it would be religious, in the same phrase. And
which goes back to the whole transcending thing. And
yeah, I kind of feel like you were saying about ego. my feeling is my ego is in my work. I've never really looked at, I don't want anybody to kiss my ass. I'm as normal as everybody. And anybody that knows me always, in fact, I'm said by several people, you should act a different way. But I always say to people, I didn't do this for that. I did this because I love it. And like a 3-year-old kid leaving the stage, first time in my life, I turned around, I looked at the crowd, and everybody was standing there. I said, you mean they really like this? And since then, it's been like that. That's what carries me. I don't really. It's like when I see people that are successful, and I do know people that do have their ass on their shoulders, unfortunately, you know. But you know, it's kind of like you, when you come from where I come from, and I've been a blessed individual. I've never had to look for sanctioning or support, and especially as far as my talent is concerned, because my talent was kind of what got me my first piece. It's like I can praise it. But it's a gift. I say freely, it's a gift. It's not mine. I do it too easily. I can write you 3 songs in a day, you know, and it'll all be good songs. I don't do that now. I used to. And as I say, it comes from the Motown training that you wrote a song a day. If you are a really, really competent, talented writer, you wrote a complete song a day. And it wasn't a hack song. It was a song that you could use. However, it's like, for me, I think it's the pride that I have in the work that I do that I consider my ego. Because as far as me being intimidated, I think the people that inspire me, Burt Bacharach, Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney, you know, I mean, these are guys that are gifted people. You can tell gifted people. They don't just do it once. They do it a lot. So, and in that light, I'm rather than intimidated, I'm motivated. I'm inspired, you know, and I look to that as in the community of creativity. It's like I say, years ago you had peers, we called it pyramidship. That is almost like developmentship that doesn't almost exist where companies are concerned in this era. Companies used to take young talent like you, people that were really dedicated to, or wanted to be dedicated, and they develop you, you know. You develop yourself these days, you know. Unfortunately, it's become so digital at the end of the quest, concentrated by companies and people that used to be behind the desk, you know, that what you have is you have 90% of the charts are a repeat of what's there. It's like you can play 10 records and basically they're pretty much the same similar sample. I've listened to the radio. It's like listening to, you go to some discos, or as they say, some dance places. Now they're not called discos anymore, but interestingly enough, my feeling is that disco never went away. We just started calling it a little something different. Each 10 years, you know, now it's hip hop or a combination of hip hop and rap, but it's still disco, you know. And nothing wrong with that because I love disco. You know, I've had a couple of disco hits. However, the two for me is like from where we are and where it's been. It's like I was going to say something else. Go ahead.
Well, when you talked a lot about how you thrive on and how you get fed off affirmation, and what do you do once the applause dies down?
It's always here anyway. I always feel it here. It's like I said to, I was asked the question, how do I feel when I was, let's say, coming up in the business, and I would walk into an A&R man's office and he would take and really, because this happened, just totally destroy your song, you know. It's like, man, this particular part here sucks, you know. You should have put the bridge a little earlier, and then in the way they treat your work isn't necessarily complimentary. In fact, it's somewhat disrespectful, and you have to be strong enough. Like I said to the young lady, well, for me, I've always loved what I do so much that by the time I played for anybody, if they didn't like it, I loved it so much it didn't really make a difference. So I always insist when I'm speaking or I have something to say that's being listened to, where especially in the creative process is, I think the strength of your work will be determined by the love that you have for what you're doing, not for the accolade that you'll get from others or the appreciation. It'll start from you. And by you loving your work to the extent that you're supposed to, it won't be bad work. It'll be work that you'll be proud of. You won't have to worry about. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we do have critics that criticize everything. You know, I mean, there's going to be somebody that's going to find something wrong or something that you didn't, or they didn't like about something you did. Again, that's cool. Some of it's motivating. Some of it's enlightening. Some of it can help you grow. I listen to everything, even that I can't use, but you find that out after it goes in. However, it's a process of you. I also said this afternoon, I was speaking to somebody about the writing process. Organic is the word I like using. Not so much because I'm usually using an organ of some kind, but the idea of being very internal when you decide that you like something. As we go through the process of writing, we have a million different ideas. And I did make the phrase standing outside. I don't mind using it because it's true. The process is, as I was told as a young writer, you must realize when you're polishing a turd and you're not. You know, so,
who told you that?
A very, very old young man. Friend of mine, yeah, it's a friend of mine. But he's not in the business. He's just had a very nasty attitude about certain things, but that particular phrase I remember. Because all it meant was, as the ideas come, you have to be objective and know the ideas that deserve your time. You have to be very objective. And for me, objective is, as I said, being organic. When it comes through here, for me, is when I know that I should spend some time on it. A lot of times I hear things because I'm listening all the time, and as being able, I can play a little bit, I'm always hearing things. And I can, as I say, I can do from 3 to 5 tracks a day, you know, as far as ideas are concerned. There'll be one that'll be rich. Really rich. And again, it's just like you asked me the question, how do you know when you're in love? As I said before, that's not a question you'll ask. You'll know that. It's the same thing when you write a song that you really like. The only thing I'm going to add to that, and somewhat, it's not contradiction, but it's just a bit of a story I'll tell you about not being the judge of her work. One of my also copyrights is a song called I Want to Be Where You Are that was Michael Jackson's first gold record as a solo artist. But this was the 8th song on a demo session that I was about to leave the studio because I didn't think this song was a strong song. The guy that was the head of the, he was the representative of Joe Bett at the time. He had been in the office for the day prior to that, and I'd heard this song. He said, "Leon, that last song, that one that, it says," I said, "Yeah," I said, "It's okay." I said, "I don't really like it." He said, No, please put that down." He had to actually convince me to put the song down. Story goes, is 2 days later, I get a call. "They love it, it's the smash, man, it's gonna be a smash." I'm thinking it's gonna be one of the 4 or 5 songs that I thought were some of my best work, right? When he told me it was I Want to Be Where You Are, again I say, it was the lesson then, don't be your critic. finish your work, let somebody else be your critic. Because at that time, had I been my critic, that song would have not been heard. So it's an interesting process. One, to love something, it's like, as I say, I second guess, I won't say I second guess myself. It wasn't a song that I loved until I heard Michael's voice on it. Because it was still like a song that I had several of the songs that I thought was so much better. You know, figure it out. I don't know, it's just like, I insist on being organic. And when I'm working with people, if we start something, when we start something, it's finished. I don't think I've ever started a song I didn't finish.
Which goes for everyone in this room, I guess.
Well, some people do start songs that they don't finish. I know some people that kind of, I call them like the quick thinkers, where it's kind of like, people that make almost good sex, you know?
That's a bit harsh. So, speaking of which, is there something like a work routine for you? Do you get up in the morning? Do you have to, I don't know, have a certain paper, a certain type of juice, or something to get going? Or?
I'm totally untrained, unconditioned. Everything is very organic. Nah.
But I mean, just picture it.
I'm serious, because, and asked the question before in another way, how do I have a process? No, in fact, I've strayed away from any kind of process because I wanted to be instinctive. I wanted to be inspired by the moment. I wanted to approach it in exactly the way it happened. You know, and if you have a particular way of doing things, or you have a set way of going about starting something, I feel like you might miss another process. And the way that I approach it, I let that feeling be what it is. I don't want it to be something or expect it to be something. I kind of like open my door, you know, and let whatever the feeling is come in and dress it up to as much of a possibility as my creativity will allow me to. And oh, the rest is the rest. Because not all of your work, or in fact, if I was to say, out of the amount of songs that I've written, since I'd say 1960, I go back, but I've written a lot of songs. And again, many of them that didn't get heard, I thought were awesome. And I still think they're awesome, but the lesson is like I was told before also in my young career, don't go in with just one song. And the idea is to exaggerate the point, be as prolific as you possibly can be, because the ideas are waiting in the wings, so to speak, and the more you work and the more you do what you do, you know, you give all your ideas a chance to come out. And I think for me, my process is it's like right now I get up every morning, I do a 2-hour bike ride, 2 or 3 hour bike ride, 7 days a week. I don't go in my music room unless I'm ready to write.
But writing meaning you're sitting down on the keyboard, or do you?
Sitting here. I can't, let's see.
Wake up.
She's sleeping right now.
We've got a pajama.
Honey. It's a lady. My computer is a lady.
So you were really lucky when you introduced the trackpads, eh?
I'll also say to you something really funny. Have you seen the big Apple screens? The ones that are like this? Well, you know, the one before they made the one that I had at home, which is a 30-inch one, the one that's like this, and it has the 2 legs like this. Well, the interesting thing about the computer is that as I do address my computer as a lady, when my tech was putting all the equipment together. When he got down to actually turning the computer on, he said to me, Lynn, he said, you might want to do this yourself. I said, why? He says, because where the button is you'll like it. It's like you have to do your finger just like that. So I said to him, he said, I wouldn't want to do that to her the first time being that she's yours. And anyway, go on.
So, yeah. Man machine is so... There's something there. Voice tones when you need them.
That's okay. I think what is happening.
Oh, thank you.
Da 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 da. Yeah, it should be there.
It was set up earlier. Und da kommt auch Pegel.
You have nothing on your interface.
Oh, it's there.
There we go.
What?
Maybe I need to stand up again.
See, I won't worry about it. Let's just, you know what? Just, I always come prepared to do a supplement when you're dealing with this. I'd like to play a few pieces of work that I have had, let's say, some success with, and some demos that other people just loved and
Never got picked.
I'm going to actually play this right here, which would be
There's
easier
something
than
in there already.
what I had up till then. That after quality control, there was hands down 100% acceptance. One of the first albums. And in fact, I can only allude to my usual point of view. It was so sensual. It was impossible not to like this album. I won't elaborate on that point because I don't have to. I've had other people elaborate for me, you know. So, but play something else. This is what's up. Body Heat. That's it's next to it. In the course of events from Marvin to Quincy, Quincy and I, Mariah Carey. I like that, huh? Let's see. There's quite a bit of talent out there that I think is really, 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 really great. Again, I have nothing but positive things to say about most of everything that's happening. I just look at the one thing that I feel like I'll continue to stress, and that is premise, why you're doing what you're doing. And for sure, I'm sure you know that it starts with loving this, you know, and the second is loving this. The third is loving this. Is out of everything that you may think I am, and everything that I may think I am, and everything that I may want to be, at the end of the day, all I am is a heart wanting to express itself, period. I mean, I genuinely love everything that I do. I don't work at it. It works me, and I love it. You know, so I could, if we had a piano, I'd play you a couple of things, but in time, there's tomorrow. I'm going to be doing another session, right?
Yeah, I think we might do it upstairs.
Okay, and I'll have a better opportunity to do. I don't play great keyboards, but I'm always complimented by some really brilliant people by the chords that I come up with. Even people that are, I would say, classically trained in working with me always say, and you don't read. No, I said, I've not studied in the way that I could have studied, because I'd say around 19 years old, I was getting ready to take a course in the theory, and the teacher seen me from across the room. She stood there for she said she was there for a good 10 minutes. She walked up to me, she says, "You don't need lessons." Same thing Quincy told me. I was taking a course in theory, and Quincy begged me to stop. I stopped. Because the idea is that what I have is a gift. What I hear is a gift. The way I hear, the way my whole application to music, totally gifted, because what I do, it takes a lot of people a long time to do. I come up with it quickly, and as Quincy said to me, leaning over my shoulder as I was playing a chord, he said, if you knew what you were doing, you'd scare yourself. I only know that I'm always pleased, sometimes, especially times when I've been in the room late at night and I leave the room and I come back the following day and I listen to something I've worked on, and I said, and I look at the keyboards and I say, but I couldn't have played that. It's really beautiful. It's so beautiful to discover yourself. That's another thing I want to stress, is that in your lifetime, as you grow, the one beauty that I want to stress is that we have substances on this planet, from cocaine to heroin to grass and different things. And unfortunately for me, there was a period in my life that, from peermanship, I did allow myself to do certain things. I only want to be quick in this point of view. There's a substance that you already have that will never be exceeded by anything that you can take. You. Nothing richer than that. So I can only leave you with the thought that I say to my son and the different people that I hope are listening. Because substances, they're tricky, you know. I mean, you feel good, or you think you feel good, but there's nothing on earth richer. As I say to my son now, I smoke me. I get high. I get high on me. And there is no better high and no safer high than that. So.
Okay, for all us champion lovers still in the making and not on the senior ranks of the game, saying, hey, get
Am I in
high.
the senior ranks? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Champion lover, 4-star general,
Okay.
something like that.
All right. Touché.
But moving up the ranks, I mean, just going to someone you don't know and saying, hey lady, smoke me, is probably not exactly a subtle approach. Can you let us in on, you know, your trade secrets?
I think smoke me sounds good. No, okay. It's like the line, the song that I'm going to create, as soon as me and Tony go upstairs, I have this idea already in my head. It's actually, in part, is Ruben in the room? The singer, the Brazilian singer, Ruben, is he in the room? I was playing something from his CD last night, and the rhythm got to me, and I had this idea, and I said, damn, I said, that would work really well with this, you know? Because it's like, it's that, so you think in terms of saying, again, don't blush, I am excessively nasty. You take in terms of your tongue doing that. And ladies can also address that outlook as well. And it then makes you think of because this is the lesson I'm trying to teach is, as a sensual minister and a person that relies, not only relies, I want to stress sensuality in most of my work. So when I hear certain things that kind of like, you can put this piece here, you can say this, you can write, you can sing the right phrase over the right chord, and it's like putting some oil on a booty. What do you want? I'm trying to be as explicit as I can here, you know?
Okay, well, now that you put the oil on the booty verbally, it's, well, reality check. Chances are it's not that wanted in 9 out of 10 cases, maybe. Next step. How do you go on about, seducing someone that's not totally inclined directly by the taste of your great smoke?
Well, the thing I was also going to add to, how did you say the first line? Smoke me? Was smoke me? Was it just smoke me?
That's what you said.
Okay, but
and
I was going to
kind of
add,
like
I was
too shy,
I was going to add to that. See, there's the question of good sex and I say, what do you say? I don't know if it's possible to have bad sex, but there's good sex and there's sex, okay? And in that light, and being questioned like this, what you have is you get out of the moment what you put in it. And interestingly enough, if you've got a partner that's not putting out what you're putting in it, you need another partner. Period. It's like, because there is a mutuality in all of us. Instinctively. We don't have to work at it. It's there. It's waiting to be addressed. Believe me. Yeah. I'm a bit of an authority on that. This feeling isn't something that we have to manifest, we have to work at, we have to look for. What we have to do is decipher who is the person that can take that feeling to the place that we want it to go. And in that process, it's learning how to be a lover. A lover, a great lover, is a lover that has, you give and you take. You lend yourself, you give of yourself, not where you're equating your giving, you give. Interestingly enough, like I say, the more you love something, the more you love back. I can swear to you, I've had moments that could have been disastrous, but because of me insisting, not insisting in physical way, but insisting that this one moment was supposed to work, and not allowing that second guess that's going on. Because interestingly enough, maybe in your process of making love in your lifetime, you've had moments where you wonder why, okay, you came, but you didn't really come. You were involved, but you weren't really involved. I'm going to make this short, hopefully. Because it's as it was put to me. Now, this point is not mine. It's by an older lady, me being a 28-year-old young man. And she made a point to me that sticks with me as a man going on 66 years old. You see, when you work at something, when you work at it to make it right, it ain't right. Hello? It's supposed to happen. And when you get in the way of it is when you work at it. Period. I learned this very simply. It's the simple act. You ever heard the word foreplay? Foreplay is, if you want to call it, it is the process of a magical orgasm. You can either have great sex or you can have sex. When the process is right and both people are, it's like when you're collaborating with somebody, I can use the same analogy. Collaboration is just like making love. You get in the room with the person and you both do like this. Give and take, in and out.
Is that the right moment to talk about Minnie Riperton?
The right moment to talk about Minnie. Minnie, yes, we could talk about Minnie because as that song was, like I said, a double entendre meeting. I was asked what kind of person Minnie was. I say immediately she was a mother to everybody she met. She loved you instantly. She looked at what you were wearing, and assessed as to whether it was enough, whether you needed a scarf on or anything. I mean, she really was a very, very sweet person. Also learned something that really hurts. She died from breast cancer. Being someone that was so religiously healthy and always after everybody about what they were eating, their intake, whether it was a substance or not, or whatever, but so conscientious about her health and about others' health. And to have that happen to her was one of the things that I learned in life that is inescapable. There is no chart on when we go and how we go. Because the biggest lesson I had was my daughter died 2 years ago, who was 31 years old, of not the same cancer, but the lesson is in life, we face things that are not where we are questioned. Nobody knocks on the door and say, "You ready for this?" Life is a series of challenges. And I think at best what I want to do with my challenges is hopefully they make me stronger. The sadness of losing someone never goes away. However, there's such a richness at a moment in your life where you could say, I lost something, but you gained something at the same time. A very difficult paradox to really explain, but it is something that does make you richer in the experience. I thought about suicide at that moment. But then, on the other hand, my daughter wouldn't have loved me to do that. And then at the same time, in speaking of it the week before she passed, it was like she understood something that all of us will understand at some point in our life. It's not about who or how, it's life. Life's experience it's unfortunately very random, and we try to put a fix on it in a time and various studies or whatever, but the reality of it is we wake up in the morning to a series of challenges that we have to meet. Many of them we're not ready for, and many of them we are. I look at the planet that I live on and I see a world that is actually missing a point. One major point, and I won't go on with this because this is my pet peeve, and I could talk about it all day. A planet that is so rich. We have such a beautiful opportunity here. But as I said before, the word love, which is what we are to each other, I make a very simple point. You can look at the person next to you and think that that's another individual, but in short, everybody in this room, all of us are a part of each other. The day that we really realize that is when we will all realize the true value of each other. Right now, we haven't seen a time on the planet yet where we have really exploited our strengths. We've been very insecure and very, very, let's say, vicious in that insecurity. And I hope that me and you and our plight as messengers will say things that will make the world that we love, that we live in, come together, because my personal feeling is the wars and all of the dissension and all the bullshit, it could stop in a second. All we have to do is stand up and turn around to each other. It's just like, I won't close with this, but Martin Luther King's daughter was given an award. I was at this particular session. And she stood up and she said something that I'm glad to be able to share with you, because it's very short. She said, I'll tell you all a story. A professor was teaching a class of 60 children, so for about 6 months. And he came in after the 6 months and he said, I'm going to ask you all a question in your graduation. The question is can you tell me the difference in day and night? So about half the class did their assessment of what day and night was between 24 hours, and some of it scientific, you know. After half the class that did this, one of the students stood up and said, okay, teacher, we did this, we've gone through this, tell us what day and night is. And the teacher said immediately, when you can look at any human being, be his size or her size, her color or whatever, and know that that is your brother or your sister, you have realized day. If you cannot do that, you're still in night.
Well, on that path, how did you learn to overcome, as Connie calls it, your insecurities?
My insecurities came, again, my insecurities have been very few. I was busy as a teenager. When I say busy, I come from the streets of Detroit.
Which is a different city than Detroit.
Well, no, not only a different city, a different itty. In other words, the streets of Detroit were, let's say, the lower or the higher level of skullduggery. You can take your pick. However, it was from childhood to when I left Detroit at 19, I had learned everything you could do to make some money in the streets. I knew how to do it very well, unfortunately. And you didn't have, interestingly enough, you didn't have too much time to be insecure. You had to be very and I say again, growing up in that city was like being prepared for any place on this planet, any war zone. I'm saying, but you could not find yourself in any place where you'd feel intimidated. Because as a kid growing up, I've seen people get their head chopped off in cold blood. I won't even go on. I've seen, by the time I was 10 years old, I'd seen every atrocity you can think of one-on-one, right in front of me, you know. And fortunately, now we have Washington, D.C., which is, now it has the title of being the murder capital of the United States. Where Detroit, for a good 30, maybe 40 years, was from the era of the gangsters in Chicago and stuff. Detroit was always in that mix, and very part of a big part of the mix. But again, my insecurities are others, people. As I've said before, I'm blessed with a talent that I've never really had to guess about. My guessing has always been people who will either be good or bad. Again, it's a blessing to know that you do something that everybody likes. And that's been that way since I was 3 years old. So, again, that's also the reason why my ego, if you want to say, isn't in the place where I've seen people that arrive at where they're stars and they have this attitude, this I want you to kiss my ass attitude. And to me, that's first a sign of insecurity. Second, a huge sign of not really knowing who you are. You know, so for the most part, I think the insecurity factor is something that's human. I think we all have a bit of it. And for mine, I'm like a 7-year, and I always classify myself as 7.5 years old because you can ask my wife. I watch cartoons religiously on Saturday morning, and you can get extremely insulted if you bother it. I have a child inside of me that will not grow up. I remember being at that age and hearing somebody say, "You've got to act like a grown-up," and me thinking to myself, if I got to act like what I've seen as grown-ups, I'm staying a kid. I instinctively love, you know, it's like, I'm just a 7.5-year-old kid that's still wondering why the rest of the world doesn't want to have fun. I'm serious. It's just like, I'll give you another story.
Which brings us to Marry a Note, maybe.
No, I'm going to tell you a story about my childhood. I was blind for 2 years as a child. I shot this eye out with a slingshot. And I had to learn Braille. I went to the school, I graduated from the same school that Stevie Wonder went to. I'm not supposed to have vision, supposedly, according to technical medical knowledge. But my mother's prayers brought my vision back, I say, and she says. But in the process of being blind and going to school with blind kids, I learned one thing that I would love to share with every human being, especially all of us that call ourselves Caucasians, black, the different nationalities that I would like to share one thing. Blind people don't see color. Blind people see you. That's the reason why I'm real good at assessing people, because I close my eyes constantly. I don't even look at the piano when I'm playing. It's a wonderful sense to it's not foolproof. Yes, we've got some people that are very brilliant about lying. They can, you know, there's some artistic people that know how to prefabricate, say exactly what you want to be said. But for me, like I said, I'm a simple kid. I'm that little 7.5-year-old kid saying, "Hey, let's have a good time," you know. I've grown to be a grown man, an adult that assesses sometimes too much. I definitely see everything because I don't watch. And when I'm looking at people, I'm not looking at them. And I did one time on stage, I got on stage, and I immediately asked the people that are in the club, I said, "Please turn the lights out." They turned the lights out, completely dark, for a second, and then I asked them to turn them back on. I said, "Now you know who I am." Because what it is, as I said to a young lady that was taking pictures of me today, I said, I'm 65 going on 66 years old. I look in the mirror daily. I'm still somewhat conceited, if you want to say. I like me, but I also see the age. I don't kid myself. But I said to her, it's not my outside that I'm interested in anyway. It's inside that I'm carrying, you know. It's what I think all of you want your world around you to know, you know. We may be a different color, but I can guarantee you, we are the same. Close your eyes. You don't have to see me. But if you close your eyes, you will see me. So, I can't say I'm closing because I want some questions now. So,
Probably for that, are you one who looks or who closes the eyes? Or do you always close the eyes in intimate moments?
I told you I was a freak, right?
So
let me address that. There are moments when you're feeling so good, you don't even have to ask your eyes to close. They just instinctively close. And then there are times when there are times when you really want to close your eyes. I mean, another thing that I don't think I really that's another thing that happens. It's like when you're being stroked properly and your eyes go in the back of your head. Excuse me, you're all grown, so it's okay. But those times, as I say, you don't have to ask your eyes to do anything. You don't have to ask yourself to do anything. As I said to Mano yesterday, I'm good at philosophical phrases, whether they mean anything. I'm sure they mean something, but whether they mean anything to the person I'm saying them to, but I say them anyway because it's from the heart. I said, there are things that we are, there are things that we need. I think the things that we are outweigh the things that we need. Because what we are is what we need already. In other words, that's all I'm saying. We already have, in other words, this earth that we live on, this earth that you have in you, it's waiting for you to grow into the person that you want to be. So anything that you're addressing is actually my slick way of not slick, but my way of getting into, when you pray, I believe that there will be a day, every earthling will wake up and we will pray to ourselves because we are God. The God is not out there or Buddha or wherever. God's in here. You do not have to go to a church to get on your knees or whatever to pray to God. God is here. You are part of God. I truly believe that every religion, regardless to whether it's Buddhism, Catholicism, whatever it is, all leads to the same door, just different names. All leads to the same door. We are a part of each other, and the more we realize it, the stronger we will become as a species. And as far as race is concerned, man has played with that issue for a couple of thousand years, and I do hope we get to the point where even if it's just the point, hey, we've been fucking ourselves up enough. Time out. Look at it like it is. From if it's not religious, if it's not race, if it's not. Oh, let me also stress this one thing: power. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't realized the power that we are yet. There hasn't been a king on this planet that wanted to make every other man a king. When we have a true king, that king will make every other man a king. When we have a true leader, that true leader will make everybody else a leader. The object is, or the outlook is, my outlook is, until we abandon our insecurity to look at each other and not be afraid, and look at each other straight on and say, I love you because you are a part of me. When we get to that, that's what I'm putting in my songs in my nasty way, but it's all about doing this, getting us together, you know. Each of you in this room will have your own individual way of making your point, but we are messengers, and I truly, truly believe we're more accountable we are about our messages, the richer we will be to the community that we're serving. And that's what we are. Messengers serving our messages to the people of this planet, you know. Maybe there's some of them out there too, you know, because I'm definitely into aliens. I think Starbucks is definitely owned by aliens.
Well, speaking about another church that you worship, what's your role in the Church of Deep Throat? You know, talking politics.
Yeah,
and stuff.
well, you know, I can tell this story because it's okay. Everybody's died. Me and the gentleman that I was writing with actually was my mentor as a lyric writer. His name was Bob Hilliard. When I met him, he lived in top of the hills in Beverly Hills, Bentley, Rolls Royces, everything, and then I walk in, and he's got a jukebox in his music system, 100 hits. All of them were his. He wrote the lyrical sport of Alice in Wonderland. The man was, in my estimation of what you call a genius, he was a lyrical genius. He was even asked, he said to me, people would ask him, Bob, how do you continue to come up with all these ideas? The same thing I said to you before about making love. He'd always say, I never try. The issue is, as he said to me about the process in itself. He says, Leon, he says, check any of my lyrics out, and if you have to ask me what I meant, I didn't write the story. In other words, when you write a line, there are some writers that are really good at being clever, and they say lines that have they're very colorful, poetic, and some of them are brilliant because they do say exactly what they mean. However, the most potent writers on this planet are writers, when they write a line, you don't have to ask them what they meant. You get the meaning instantly, and I think that was what I was trying to address when you about that point, but I wanted to say something else to that, because I didn't start writing lyrics until he said to me one afternoon, I was singing something before he came in the room, and he actually had listened to a bit of it. He says, you know, he says, you got a unique approach to how you say things, which is also a talent, you know, because I think the best analogy for is writing a lyric is when you listen to a song and you instantly say to yourself, damn, I thought of the same thing. Bingo. Because that's a trick of what we do as lyricists, if you want to say, is writing something that instantly most people can correlate with. And the rest is like, I like to have fun. And as I say, I'm an 100% instigator. I like playing with the do's and the don'ts, always in a good way. Never malicious, never vicious. I do hope that I've said something that is useful. I do.
You totally did, and especially as well on that one, but I'm somehow a little lost here, because I think you started off explaining what your involvement with the Deep Throat soundtrack was.
Oh, I
we
did.
got off on a little tangent.
I did. I was trying to get out of it. However, the story goes is that me and Bob were working on an album before he passed away, or no, a movie. And a year after he passed away, a friend of mine called me up. He says, Leon, he says, I'm down here in the Pussycat Theater. I've just seen a movie called Deep Throat. Man, he says, you should come down here. I said, okay, I really didn't have to be convinced. I wanted to see Deep Throat anyway. I'd heard about it. He said, no, he says, but come down here, man. He says, because the second song in the movie, I could swear it's your voice. So I go down, I listen. As soon as the second song comes up, I know it's me because there's an effect that I did. I took a straw, put it in a glass, and I blew. And you can hear the bubbles, right? But the next line is, bubbles, great big magic bubbles. Of course, the lady was saying at the time, and this is classic, before that comes on, she says, do you mind if I smoke while you eat? Anyway, I go back to the show after the movie's off. I call the lady who is the wife of the writer. I said, you know, Jackie, I said, you ought to come down to this theater. I said, because there's a couple of Bob songs. There was one of mine and three of, because what they did was they took 3 to 5 songs. We had about 7 in the movie. They took 3 or 5 songs and just took them. Turns out, 4 or 5 days later, after we were trying to investigate who the people were and so forth, I'm sitting in her house in the phone rings, and her being Caucasian, you know, when you guys get upset, you get red. And the phone rings, and she says yes, and her face gets a little red. And she says yes again, and her face gets redder. And then she says yes one more time, and the phone is shaking as she puts it down. I say, Jackie, what's wrong? She said, well, that was the guy on the phone. I said, are you Mrs. Hilliard? She says, yes. We understand you want to find out who owns the rights to Deep Throat. She said, yes. Mrs. Hilliard, are you listening? She said, yes. Forget it. Now, your laughter will be at this. 20 minutes to 40 minutes later, the lawyer that we had investigating it calls and says, Jackie, you know about that picture Deep Throat? She says, yes, but Cherry, I want to tell you something. No, Jackie, let me tell you something. Forget it. As it turns out, if you go online, because the story's there now, they're actually bold enough to tell the story, because it's online. My wife and me looked at it the other night. It's the first time I've seen it, where they tell the story that the Gambino family was, you've heard of those guys? Took it, and they just did what's typical of the mafia. It's yours this week, it's yours this week, it's yours next week, and for the past 30 years, it's been a lot of people's ownership. But of course, the other issue is I never stood up to say it was my voice, because my knowledge of the mafia was very clear. If you know the mafia, you don't call them and say, hey, I want what's coming to me, man. They sit on the other side. Hey, Charlie, this guy Leon Ware wants what's coming to him. Let's take care of him. Oh, by the way, Charlie, check out his cousins and all of his good friends, you know, because we don't want to leave any grieving relatives, right? All I know is that now, 30 years later, I'm 65. Even the lady that was the publisher died 2 or 3 days ago. So my wife, she says, don't go crazy. I said, I'm not going to go crazy. I had some plans if I told Robin that being that I was going to disclose this information, that maybe we should do a real intimate picture session so I could take off something, you know, maybe get fully erected and check this out. No, listen, this is the funny part, because after the only thing I must say about the Deep Throat movie in itself, because in leaving, Jackie had this one thing to say. She says to me, I'm not bragging or anything, but she said to me, looked at me, she said, as we're walking out the door, she says, it's the only thing, Leon, she says, they actually cheated, you know, because she hasn't had what we call Deep Throat, has she? It's true. Proud. Touche, I'm a brother. We do. What else is there? Some questions, please?
They always, I got 2 questions actually, if that's
Please.
Cool. They always talk about like how Marvin Gaye had like these mini demons, and I was like, well, had he had like a nervous breakdown or anything, like, or how was he acting around you or whatever?
Marvin was, as I said, very similar, very idealistic. Idealistic people is extremely sensitive. They treat things in a deeper form than a lot of people do. And where me and Marvin differed is Marvin clinged to disappointments. He did not
couldn't take criticism?
Well, it wasn't criticism, it was the pains that he had in his life from the marriages, or the marriage, one of the biggest marriages, his first marriage, I think, that didn't work, and he had a couple other grievances in his life. He was Marvin Gaye, his father was gay. He had to live with the fact that his father was gay coming up. Also, being totally heterosexual and having the last name Gay. There was a couple of issues that he dealt with, but he was as I am in the light of being just another human being, another man or whatever. I was asked by a lady at a party one night. She was trying to make, I guess, the guys feel uncomfortable because she asked a couple of guys the same question. She looked at me, she says, "Do you know that you have a lady in you?" And I answered really quickly. I said, "Yes, 50% of me is female." I said, "But the lady in me is so in love with the guy, she can't wait to get to him." So I'm excessively impressed with the fact that part of me is female, and I said this to a dear friend of mine. Any man that's uncomfortable around a gay individual, you better check yourself out. Because I got a lot of friends that I love dearly that are gay. I feel that gay people are getting the same slack and the same bullshit that black people get, that women get. A false, very disrespected outlook about who and what they are. We aren't supposed to be equating who and what. I don't say when I say we're not supposed to be. I think what it is that there's a lot of misspent time in our lives on this planet where we have the audacity to delve into someone else's bedroom and tell them what we feel about it. My feeling is this. I said, I guess about 15 years ago to a very dear friend of mine who was as gay as all outdoors. This guy wished he was a woman at Christmas. Okay? I said to him, he said, "Only thing I feel is if I were gay, there will be no question about me saying to the world, you can kiss my ass. I'm who I am, I love who I am, and I'm not asking you to be who I am." And I'd say to anybody that has that particular classification, love yourself enough where it's like I said about your work. You don't ask anybody, is my work okay? You ask yourself that first. See, because but by the time you release that work for somebody else, even your close friend, to hear it, you listen to it enough to know that, now it's time. Now I can play this with somebody. Because believe me, nobody other than, and she hears it only by proxy through the wall. And nobody hears anything of mine until because it's like, I can't hit on a woman because I hate being rejected. And I've been that way since a teenage boy, so I learned how to get mine without hitting on them. Hey, we all got a style, Mine is real free, It's like the same thing about making love. You just make yourself available. And once somebody knows that you're in the room with them and you're on the same page, it's like my sister said, being a young man and had four older sisters, by the time I was 20 years old, I had been schooled very well about the other side. So I wasn't the young boy that a lot of young men think that when they're going out to cop, you're going out to be copped. Because most of the time you think you're copping, you ain't copping, she was waiting for you. And that's the game that women play because they approach, we go out the masculine style to allure. They go out, they've already allured. Because they got something we want, And they like, we got something they want, but they got something we want, and they do that feminine, that feminine thing that we love so much. That's the reason why we're here. So God bless them, and all I can say is that, again, I hope I'm saying something that is useful. I'm here because of the meaning of you all being here was the meaning that drew me here. It's like I've been I've been invited to different things that I've not made myself available to because of feeling that the premise and the meaning wasn't what I wanted to be involved in. This is something that, after my wife, of course, seen the whole tape, and she was very excited about it. I was excited about it after looking at half of the tape because I heard one young man who was from San Francisco make a phrase, and you might know who this was. It was in the video that you sent. It was from San Francisco, and he made the phrase. He's a DJ. He said, "I do this." Same thing I said. He said, and you can look at what you gave me. I can't remember the verbatim what he said, but what it meant was, it says, "I do this because I love it." And I thought to myself, shit. And after that, the different people that were speaking, the whole energy about what this is people from all over the world, however many people there are, but people from all over the world, different parts of the whole planet, that are coming to communicate, to share their feelings, to do what a nasty guy like myself would think could happen. Not that orgies are something that I participate in, you know, but it's almost like a creative.
Come on, scheduled at 11. Would 11 be convenient for you?
Have you got the? Excuse me. Have you got the oil?
Always, it's sitting right next to the.
I am 150%. I'm like the ideas that we all have waiting in the wings. You know. Mark.
All right, my next question is, like, as far as like if MCs in hip hop, as far as them clearing like samples from you, have any of them try to play you out, and like, what was their name? Like, if it was anybody big that didn't want to pay you, or like disrespect by not even clearing it or whatever?
I've not had that problem because in response to that question, kind of like that question from somebody else, most of the rappers, and from Tupac to Ice Cube, I mean, I've been sampled by just about all of them. The current thing with Mary J. Blige and Puffy, and there's a couple other things that's out. There's some more things coming out next month or in January, but not. See, because what happened, I think, when rap started really getting big, and it was like the Wild West, and guys were just taking people's stuff, you know, what happened was they started losing everything. See, because they were taken to court. It was clear out plagiary, and whatever percentage they had of the work that they did, they lost completely. So, and that became so emphatic across the board. Every time anybody would get caught stealing or taking a piece of somebody's song. In fact, they've since now come up with the plagiary law that's a bit different. See, because when I was coming up, you had to have 8 consecutive bars, both melody and chords, in order to have a plagiary case. In today's world, they have a thing where I think it's 4 bars, and if you have the sentiment, as they say, if you have the sound or the sentiment of that piece, that's plagiary. So I think that's great because now people can't get away with it. I've only had 2 outright thefts in my career, and one was by one of the biggest stars of Black history. I won't even say his name, but because I don't like to put people out, but actually 2.
Who was that?
I can't tell it. I won't say names, but can I have a tissue, someone? Is there a tissue?
Oops.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I came covered. Oh. If you listen to their repertoire, it's like both of them were, Well, they're in both of their top tens or their gold records, both the songs of each artist. And if you listen to their top 10 greatest hits, you won't have to ask me. Fortunately for me, what's followed me in my career is that my usage of chords, my signature is, and again, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's caused me to have a few what we call hits, and you can listen to my work with other people and discern the parts that I wrote. And, I think that's great. I think it's great. I like having, I think we all should reach for identity. One thing that's somewhat dwindling in this particular era where so much sounds alike, you know? We should endeavor to, as you're doing your, you know, to hook it up as uniquely in your style so that as things progress, they can say, well, that's so-and-so's thing, you know, that's so-and-so's thing. That's how you know, being the individual, because at the end of the day, what's your name, darling? Yeah, Anya? She was saying to me last night about the different DJs that don't really have the slant or the proper sensitivity to the art that they're doing. And it is now a real art. Mind you, it was only till about 3 years ago that I realized that DJs were as popular as, let's say, as creative as they are. My first impression of DJs, because I was on the road with a young man named Carl Craig, who's also from Detroit, but very, which I found out, a very popular, very famous DJ, right? He happened to tell me some of the fees that he gets in going to various countries. I mean monies, amounts of monies. I want you all to know, my first comment to him, I said, fuck, I missed the boat, man. No, because see, the issue is that these guys, I call it the smartest manifestation. I thought that sampling was slick. DJs are the slickest. They take your shit, they rearrange it. Now the artist, it's not like they're really ripping anybody off. I'm just saying it's a brilliant manifestation. They take your shit, make it their own by the way that they play it, the sequencing that they play, because I think the power of a DJ is knowing, it's just like they say, the first song isn't the one that you really have to concern yourself with. It's as Bob said about writing. It's not your first line that's important. It's the one that's following. So a DJ's thing is to have his thing so together that when as he sequence, you do like this. And by the time you get here, you're hooked. If you watch most people that are really DJ-bound people, it's like, and by the time they get here, you can't say shit to them. They're into that music and they don't want to hear anything else. Leave them alone. You know? So it's an art that I respect, and I'm sure that many of you that may be in here that are DJs can rest assured it's something that's it's a lot bigger than I knew it was. It's here to stay. It's fulfilling because it's the same thing that I do as an artist that sings. Because you get in front of 1,000 people or 100 people, however many it is, but you get in front of these people and you make them feel good. That's what they come for. They come to be released. They come for you to serve them musically, beat-wise, what will take them out of their present moment, where they're dealing with just elation, you know. And that in itself is an art. So you can pat yourself or give yourself a hand, you know, please. For me. All of you that are DJs, you know. More?
Yeah, at some point you were talking about like how you get to be strong when you were like presenting your work to an A&R or somebody like that. And Wanted to ask you if you ever changed songs when somebody told you to do so, or what's your approach about that?
Like again, when I kind of have finished an idea, after I play it for somebody, I listen to their opinion. I don't leave with that opinion though. I live with I live with mine. It's important to be. I think it's open. You know, if it's criticism, hopefully it's constructive criticism. Anya?
Thanks. Hello. Okay. Now I just want to, you keep saying, I hope it's useful what I'm saying for you guys. I hope it's useful. I just want to thank you for your words, really, because I think the knob twisting and everything is important, but I think a lot of us need a little bit of the soul side of it as well. So really thanks a lot for your words. And I'm glad that you touched a bit on the sensual side of music making, because I think a lot of people, it's taboo in a way, or people don't admit it or open up to it. But for me, when I take the stage, I'm still working on the studio side, but when I take the stage, it's 100% what I'm there. I'm making love to the crowd, and I get so much out of it. Is what drives me really. But my question for you is, who are you making love to when you make your tracks? Like you talk about the whole process that you describe. Who is your lover when you make your tracks? Your instrument, yourself, your words, your goal for the track.
My wife tries to nail me in the sense where I'm writing a song now. It's called "On the Beach." Well, I have lines in the song that they could be classified as pornographic lines, you know, because I'm in between the legs. My tongue is doing different things. I'm sucking nibbles and stuff. She's asking me, "Who did you write the song about, honey?"
I was just wondering.
No, but my answer in short, in general, like I said, I'm making love to the world. You know, as odd as that might sound, but when I'm fantasizing, I have a fixed individual, but it's usually a fixed individual flashing moment, because it goes from that flashing moment to another individual, and it's, I think basically, I'm just driven by sensual urges and sensual innuendos, and I never have to work at it. Ask anybody that lives closely with me. Every other word that you say, if you make a phrase, I instinctively can connect it to something sensual, and I do. I mean, it's like, I don't even think it's a talent. What it is, it's just I do it, and now, of course, for the past, say, 30 years or so, since I've been really into it, and like you say, the world around us is a bit intimidated, or we have to, some people feel a little uncomfortable about saying certain things. I'm just the contrary. I am that rebel that wants to raise the bar, you know, that says, hey, not only should we not be afraid, we should be proud of who we are and what we are. That part of our substance, or our existence. I mean, I could get choked up right now, I won't. But I find it almost an audacity that we could have allowed ourselves as a species to look at that part of our function as taboo, wrong, or be afraid of it. Richly I say. Simple point. I said to a guy who was interviewing me about 6 months ago, did a whole article. I said simply, I'm not saying anything ingenious. I'm not bringing anything to the table that's new. I'm only reminding the people that I have a chance to remind, very simply, cherish where you come from. And in that light, you can get extremely nasty and be honorable. Very nasty in a very honorable way. Because anything that you say that alludes to sex can only be considered your ode to your origin. Oh, did I say that right? Touché. Ode to your origin. You know? Yeah, that's exactly it. And in that light, we are all one. A beautiful one. And you can bring the oil out.
One of the most difficult things is probably to wrap things up and let go sometimes. And I mean, I want to reissue, there is extensive liner notes, and one bit talks a lot about, it's Marvin Gaye's wife talking about how she felt when she was a little younger in the actual recording process, and how she felt like he was just singing for her, and how she uses this record to play it to the kids now and all that kind of stuff. I mean, were you present? And
yes.
And how
She was
did it
right.
feel? I mean,
She
when
was
you
right.
read this,
She was right. It was like...
those were initially your thing, and it already took a life of its own.
It was so beautiful because what happened with that record was, again, this is another part of the story. Marvin had been courting. I don't know if Janet and him they just got married. Yeah, they just got married. And he was as in love as anybody could be. Genuinely in love. And I think probably that might have been one of Marvin's happiest moments. That it took us 13 months to complete the album. Why so long? Because 6 of the months we were playing basketball on studio time. But Marvin really was in love with. He loved.
A bit of a shirt against the.
He loved Jan. He really loved. It's like my wife says better. Jan was his reward for the pain that he was feeling about the other relationships in his life, and I could guess, but it was said, I don't know this to be true, Marvin's last tour, he had made 2 attempts to kill himself. And his process and his attempts were not good because he had a problem with the issue of suicide, because suicide is sacrilegious. So the story goes, is 2 weeks before his father killed him, he bought his father a gun. And the day before the incident, he went to a house where his father lived and proceeded to kick his father's ass. And this story is not told, but I can tell you all, please don't record. This is, it's out, but it was intentionally done by Marvin. Marvin didn't want to kill himself. He just wanted, he didn't want to do it himself. But he took it to the man that brought him into the world that he never got along with. Him and his father never really had any great, father and son relationship. And went to the house, beat his father up, and let his father leave the room. Father came back in the room and shot him. I mean, the story is told, but in essence, that part of the story as far as where the gun came from. And when this was told, it was told by one of Marvin's family, so I knew it's not a lie. And it made sense because there was an open, ongoing, if you want to say it, family dislike for each other, father, son, family. And Marvin figured it out. He said, well, if I can't do it myself, I know somebody that will do it for me. And as sad as it sounds, I only note that he was a troubled person. He to me was another gift to the world that, whatever you want to call it, his time was too quick, much too quick, but in the same light, we don't have any charge of that. So, but does that?
How do you, to which extent do you think is being a troubled soul essential to producing great art?
Well, lots of troubled souls do great art. It's and interestingly enough, I'm a bit of a troubled soul, but mine is if you want to say, not only under control, mine is basically loving something, and knowing that you won't have the time to really do what's necessary. And I won't elaborate, but I think for the most part, Marvin and people like Marvin that have such strong passions that exceed being consumed. Consumed is a word. There's a point of passion where that consumed is only a word, because there's another level where you are that. It is everything, and nothing else means anything. And you've got some brilliant. Now I could probably make a list of brilliant talents throughout time that were troubled souls that gave the world some phenomenal art, from picture art to paintings to dances to. Interestingly enough, they say the more troubled an artist is, the more depth you get out of their strokes and their music and whatever. Could be true, because there's a dark side that does seek light, needless to say. Yes.
Hello. It's been a real pleasure listening to you for these hours. I guess I speak for all of us. If for some reason you just said you were confident in all, if for some reason you are doubting you got your point across, I can assure you that it was really important listening to you.
Thank you very much.
Having said this, and getting back to the topic of Marvin and the whole importance of his life to all of us, and not just as DJs, I guess Marvin Gaye must be the artist that everyone surely likes, like Bob Marley or whatever. He's really like consensual to everyone, and that's partly, in my opinion, because of the humanity in his body of work, and of course it's transparent also within your words.
Sorry.
No note.
Sorry. I thought it was off. It's off now.
Okay. So what I will try to ask you is, his music has been sampled so many times by different people and in different contexts. But I'm thinking we have a track here on the laptop, which is exactly called Tribute to Marvin, The Day We Lost Soul. And we were thinking we'd like you to take a short listen.
Can I?
Yeah, and comment on that.
Can
And
I?
if you feel it's actually a tribute,
Sure.
if you feel it's a tribute,
Please.
although it's
Can you bring it?
yeah, we could put it on the speakers of the laptop, but maybe it's best to connect to the mixer and listen to it properly.
I've been talking so much. I wanted to. It's like my son says, you talk too much there when you get started. However, it's because I don't talk
We'll take
a
it
lot.
over there.
I don't get the chance. I don't get the opportunity to do this.
It's another Detroit record, by the way. That one.
Which one?
The one. That's the Moodymann one, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is basically whether you agree it's a proper tribute. Although this is like a record with perhaps 1,000 copies, you know.
I'll answer you in a second.
Okay.
North from the source.
Like you said, so many different interpretations and different treatments of various works of mine. And monetarily wise, I love it. Creative wise, I appreciate it, and some of it I actually do love. But 100% agree with, because first, for anybody in this room, with living 30 years and doing this for 30 years, and people coming to you after in this process and saying that they want to do something else with your work, I feel like it's a plus. The only thing that I've not myself, me on one thing, and my publishers on a couple other things, is when you have guys send you their idea of what they're going to put out, and I'm low. And if you can make me feel like you're really low, you've gone past the point. Because, like I said, especially with this current song that I'm just finishing, I'm saying that even things I actually haven't expressed on record before in actuality, but it's again part of who I am. But bottom line, I like it. I like the variations. I think it gives a piece of work new life. And the only time you have to reject a person's particular slant or their approach of what they're doing with a piece of work of yours is, like you say, if it's tacky, you know, if it doesn't have any taste, or especially one of the things, this guy is like, he's talking about some raunchy phrases about how they did certain things with certain ladies, and you know, it's like, yeah, let's give you a point. I went to an awards program about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. Up until that time, I was like most men my age, 60-ish, late 50s, kind of wondering how young women could really be getting off on the rap scene. I mean, these guys come out, it's aggressive, it's animal, it's ugly, a lot of it's disrespectful. Not today's thing, but I mean, looking at somewhat the scenario or the outlook of rap, hip-hop rap. My lesson was about to be taught. I watched Tony, Stevie Wonder, Levert, the different singers that they're singing, and I watched this crowd do that. You know, I mean, the things that light the candle, you know what I mean? Everything was going on just as I was used to seeing. My lesson was when the singers stopped and the rappers hit the stage, those same people that had been swooning, some in their late 40s, 50-ish people, the young ones as well, all the same people were responding to the singers in the way that singers get responded to. As soon as the rappers hit the stage, lesson number one. I watched those same people that were cool and suave and all this shit, they got up on the tables, hit the table, and they was I said, oh, I get it now. See, because in my era, we were alluring to pull the panties to the side. Okay? In this world, they tearing the panties off. You know what I mean? It's like, excuse me, it is so animal because, like I said, you have to see the two together to really get it, because the same people that were swooning and doing all this, you know, lighting the candle, Same people, they jump on the rappers. I said, no, I get it. These girls, it's because we don't like to think of it, but we are animals. And rap and the context of rap does this to you. Like I said to Robin, you look at the pictures of young artists of this date, the only thing that's missing is the thing across the number across their neck. Because they don't look like they're trying to be your friend. They're looking like, you come around the corner, motherfucker, I'm fucking you up. You know what I mean? Excuse me, language necessary because I want you to get the point. Anybody else?
Please. Thank you very much. Hello, Leon.
Hello.
So,
Hi there.
how you doing?
I'm pressure, man.
Well, you've been really great today. So,
I hope so.
you said some very inspiring things to me yesterday about time. We've just been talking about Marvin and how much time he had with us, in a way, or with you. We are sharing time together over the next couple of weeks. We're sharing time right now. Tell me about time.
Time? I should tell you about time. I can tell you about my time, which actually, you know what?
How you view the time that we're all allocated on the earth to be a messenger?
I view it as a continuum that we are a part of. It's like I said to somebody just recently before I came here. It's a really beautiful thought because in this process, the only thing I won't say the only thing, but one major thing that I feel is missing is us really getting acquainted with each other. Just earthlings getting acquainted with each other. We don't do that. This kind of forum is a good beginning or a good process or a good part of that process. But I've said, and I say again, I hope that my being a part, your being a part, will be seeds to other hearts, because this is the beginning of what I'm talking about. We are supposed to be about the task of magnifying each other, not diminishing each other. I'm supposed to do, in my time, what's necessary for you to be your best in your time. And on down the line, and once all of us on this planet realize how much we actually need each other, is when we'll really realize how strong we are. We haven't seen anything yet. I mean, I think, and I'll say it also, this is another favorite phrase of mine. We will, as I say, we, as humans, outgrow our ignorance. I truly believe that. I truly believe that the human spirit is much richer than what we've shown. I think we've just been in this circle, which is consistently, like I said, it's actually, at this point, I'm hoping that most men, the brilliant minds on this planet, will kind of come to the point that I myself, I consider myself a very simple-minded man, but even a simple-minded man can come to the same point. Aren't we tired? Fuck, isn't it? I mean, it's like if we were doing something different to each other after 2,000 years, it'd be something, then we could question something. But we've been in the same circle for 2,000 years. I don't like you for this, I'm cutting you for that, I'm killing you for that, you know what I mean? And none of that, none of it is who we are. It's like the basics of what we are and who we are so drastically missed because we're so fucking scared of each other.
So speaking on that, do you think like racism is like the ultimate test God put on this earth for us to really challenge, because the way it was designed, and it's sort of like a game. So like to end up getting us all on one and loving one another? You think that's like the ultimate goal?
I think the best answer for that is you've seen a rainbow, right? You've all seen a rainbow? You've all seen a rainbow? Lots of colors, right? And what's the first thing you say when you see a rainbow? Oh, how beautiful. Oh, how beautiful. You say, oh, that's really beautiful, right? I don't know. But my biggest guess is that if there are makers of us, I question that, but in the light of, if there are makers of us, they intended this to be the same way I just expressed. This blackness and your whiteness and Asian and Spanish and all these different things, that was supposed to make us say, wow, how beautiful. Instead, what do? What have we done? We look at each other and say, black men go across the earth and they intimidate. White men go across the earth and they get along, but it's like with the Irish thing, the Irish have been fucking each other up for how many years over a point that you ask yourself. It's just like, I have a very good friend of mine who is Irish, and we had this conversation, but it's interesting, you say to yourself, how could another man knock on your door and say, hey, you know, I'm ruling you. I'm just ruling you. It says, fuck what you believe, I'm just ruling you. It said, whatever you believe, throw it away. I'm ruling you. That's Irish. That's the Irish fight. And they'll be fighting for a long time. It's the same thing with Israel and Palestine. Oldest war on the planet. But I did hear a guy that went and ruled Palestine and ruled Jerusalem, talking to regular people. And if you close your eyes and you listen to each of both sides talking, all you could hear was, I ain't going nowhere, this is my shit. Other side, I ain't going nowhere, this is it. And I had a conversation with a young man from Palestine who had years ago been sent to London because his parents were wealthy enough to send him there. He was driving a cab and I was in the back of the cab. We happened to get into the conversation. He pulled to the side. We had a good half an hour, 45-minute talk, just sitting in the cab. First thing he asked me, he says, do you know what the war in my country is about? I sat back, I said, well, you know, for years I said, I've heard different things. I said, but for the most part, I heard it was about a wall. He said, oh, yes. It's about a wall. Believe it or not, started about a praying wall that Jerusalem said was theirs. Palestine says it's theirs. My point was that at this point in the conversation, say, hey, why couldn't they have said, okay, yours for 3.5, mine for 3.5? He said it had been too easy, man. It had been too easy. And then plus, at this point, they've been killing each other for so long, it's no longer about the wall. It's about how many people have died on each side and the different grievances. And plus, I won't get really deep into politics, but I must say this. If Americans wonder why 19 men would make themselves a bomb and make a point, if they're wondering, they ain't been keeping up with the do's and don'ts of America. Because America, unfortunately, has made some moves that are responsible for a demise around this planet in their quest for quietly doing what the Dutch did first, the British did second, conquering the fucking world. And I say to you again, true power, is not about conquering anything at all. In fact, any man that's truly powerful, he makes every man as powerful as him because he knows his power. See, unfortunately, on this planet, we've had leaders that have been guessing and totally unsure about their part, because everything that they exhibited was oppression. And even to this point, every nationality on this planet, black, white, all of us, every nationality separately enslaved their own first. Separately. It is, and I say it's a known, if you psych it out, why? Because we're afraid. Men are afraid of each other, of themselves, of their own community, and then they spread it around. So over the years, you've had these different conquerors from Genghis Khan to Rome and the different things, and it's like it's like a big circle that continues to do the same thing: kill and conquer, kill and conquer. I mean, the war in Iraq, a lot of people can guess what it's about. We'll find out maybe 10 years. The actual truth, because what's really good about this particular time that we're dealing in, we got magnifying glasses up your ass. Excuse me, but that's what it is. There's very little that you do now on this planet that cannot be or will not be deciphered. So, the truth of this war, or this current situation, unfortunately, it ain't about what they said it was about, and I think a lot of Americans are pissed about it. But the biggest problem is now we're past 2,000 young lives over there that are going to probably going to graduate to even more than that before this is all over, because there is a war that's going on that's not going to be won the way they're fighting it. You cannot win that war. The best thing was said when 9/11 happened is we can go up and kick their ass, we can go up and do this and that, but unless they address the hearts of the 19 men that made themselves a bomb, unless they address that, the war that they're fighting right now will go on just like the same war that's going on between Palestine and Israel. The different wars that go on around the planet, they are never going to stop because we're not fighting the war. The real war, they got to get to those guys and say, okay, now we're going to make some changes. America has to make some changes because the policies that they've been making for the past 20, 30 years have been fucking people up. And Americans don't know it, but when you look at 9/11, it's kind of an indication, but still there's a lot of Americans that don't realize how much America is a part of different demises around this globe. And the demises, unfortunately, aren't to anybody else's advantage but America. And what's really cold about American structure or the politics is they're smart enough to do it this way. They ain't actually doing it. Oh, that ain't ours. Been doing that for 30 years or more. However, truth being told, these wars are going on, these wars will continue on until they start lessening their so-called pursuit of grip of power, because that's what it is, guys. It is, they ain't pursuing to give nobody shit. Excuse me, It's a pursuit of power, and they call it a lot of other things, and I think me and a lot of other people are sick of it, and that's the magic, is the me and yous, the guys that really make those guys powerful. Because at the end of the day, it's us that make those guys powerful. And when the people across the continent, across the world realize this together will be a start in kind of like us realizing some of the magic that we have here. But I wish you all love. I love you dearly, and I hope it comes back. But mine is like I said to Anya, and like I said to anybody, there's questions. I'm 24, 26 hours a day nasty, and 27 hours a day very much in love, So it's like a combination of, and I don't work at it, and I just hope they give me like about another 20 years, because I really feel like I can do something that I haven't done before.